Day 23, Thursday. How have we got here? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing particularly well today. I'm feeling quite invigorated today. I don't know why, but yeah, some days I'm less enthusiastic than others. Today's an enthusiastic day. So what are we going to talk about today? So there's a lot of things we can talk about, but I think as we are knee deep, we're waist deep into in fact, we're kind of chest deep into this challenge now. I want to talk about the concept of reward. Now, reward and replacement, it's a bit like carrot and stick, but what I want to talk about is how your brain works and how you can work with your brain so that your brain and your impulses don't run you, okay? Now, I'm guessing that obviously, you're an adult and you've managed to get this far in life, and you're probably doing well in business, you're probably doing well in your career, you've probably done well in relationships, I don't know, but alcohol is one of those things that kind of eludes you, or the control of alcohol is one of these things that eludes you, because over the years you have allowed it to become like a crux or a coping mechanism, and it's just ever so slightly every day just got worse and worse, and a 1/10 of 1% every week has just got worse and worse and worse until you found yourself watching this video, watching some British guy on the internet talk about his problems with alcohol and how he can help you. How have we all got to this point? The concept that I want to talk about is replacement of alcohol and reward. So today, it's Thursday. I want you to do something nice for yourself. I want you to reward yourself, not with alcohol. I know what you're thinking, not with alcohol, but I want you to do something nice for yourself. And I want you to start, we touched on it yesterday, but I want you to start doing something that you enjoy. And I want you to start associating that with the time that you used to be drinking. Now, we can start tying really unhealthy habits to this, which we want to avoid, okay? We don't want to be tying food to it. We don't want to be tying sugar to it. Like, we don't want to be tying drinking sodas to it. Now, something that really worked for me was sparkling water. I liked the carbonation, and I still like the carbonation. I really enjoy sparkling water. That's a relatively harmless vice. In fact, a very harmless vice. What we don't want to do is for you to, smoke 60 cigarettes a day to cope, or to eat 3 birthday cakes a day, or, ice cream cakes a day. We don't want you doing that. But we need to start rewarding you. Now, this video is twofold. So the first one is do something nice for yourself. And that can be going out for dinner. Take your wife out for dinner, take a friend out for dinner, do something nice for your kids, do something nice for you, probably specifically, but something that's going to give you happiness. So if that means doing something for your kids and it makes you happy, perfect, you do that. I'm not here to tell you what to do in that sense anyway. So do something nice for yourself today that you can just think, okay, this is a little reward for 3 weeks, more than 3 weeks sober. So there's nothing wrong with, having some cake or having KFC, as I always say. Just don't make it a huge habit, because I used food for quite a long time to kind of fill that gap, and it took me a long time to understand that I was kind of replacing one negative with another negative. So the first one is to do something nice for yourself today, and that can be anything apart from alcohol, apart from crack cocaine, apart from anything like that. What I want you to do is something nice for yourself. Secondly, I want you to start thinking about what you can do for yourself to replace the time that you've been drinking. That might be going to a gym, like some sort of leisure club or something like that, where you can hang out, where you can do things. Now, there are some places that are going to be better than others. Like, do I recommend that you go to the local dingy pool hall? Probably not. because there's probably going to be a bunch of shady people in there drinking and doing drugs and stuff like that. So maybe that's not the best thing to be doing, but somewhere that's going to be relatively normal. And I'm guessing if you're watching this, you are a relatively normal person that isn't involved with biker gangs and pool sharks and things like that. So if you're one of those, relatively normal people, then this is what you should do. Go somewhere relatively normal. Now, that's not to say that if you are a slightly more chaotic person that I can't help you, but typically the people that I work with, they tend to be, let's think of some examples. So the main ones are things like people in professions. So let's talk about professions first. It's lawyers, doctors, big ones. I have people that work like on offshore rigs that have very high stress jobs that are, they make a load of money, but they spend, a month on a rig and then they've got a month off or 2 weeks off and they've just got all this money and they just go and drink it. And they've got these high stress jobs. I've worked with law enforcement, EMTs, nursing staff, trauma team, all of these kind of people. I have also worked with, I'm obviously not going to name them, but I have worked with some actually quite famous people. One person in the UK, both comedians, one person in the UK and one person in the US. And both, you'd probably know their names, but their life is, for want of a better, was, or probably still is, sort of chaotic. They're always in clubs, they're always hanging out with other artists and comedians and people like that are drinking, and they are forced into these situations. So what I'm telling you not to do, like don't go to the pool hall with Crazy Eddie that does 15 shooters and a line of coke before midnight. Then these people sometimes have no choice but to hang out in clubs with other comedians, and we have to work on a very specific set of tools for them to get through and cope with these situations. So if that's you, definitely book a call with me, because I've successfully helped a number of people that are in that kind of chaotic situation. So it's a bit more difficult and it's going to require a bit more time, but we can do it. But if you are a normal person that is, has a normal job, you've got a couple of kids, a wife, and your life is not comedy clubs or singing or performing or something like that, then you are going to need to replace, because you'll have a routine. You'll have a Monday to Friday job, and the evening time is probably when you're drinking, and the weekends is probably when you're drinking. So I want you to think about what you can do to fill that time. I don't really know what that's going to look like for you. Again, if we work together, we can come up with all of this stuff together, and we can put a proper kind of plan in place. In the absence of that, just this kind of these YouTube videos, think about what you can do to replace that time, because one thing we're left with is time. And as the month is going along, this kind of honeymoon period, as I call it, is starting to run low, and you are probably coming to the conclusion that there's still problems in life, there's still issues, there are still conflicts to be resolved, there are still problems at work, but the great news is you're not drinking, and that means that you can actually deal with all of these things. But that kind of, the feeling that if only alcohol were removed from your life would be perfect, that feeling's probably diminishing a little bit now. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean we go back to drinking, because it makes our life 10 times worse. Obviously, I think that day-to-day, the mundanity of that kind of day-to-day grind of thinking, okay, I thought I would be the CEO of my company by now, or something like that. So, yeah, make sure that you don't fall back into old habits, and make sure that you don't see this as an opportunity to lose heart or to have negative self-talk or anything like that. And as I say, I'm only a booked call away if you want some help, or if you want to do this properly and you want a proper plan. But anyway, that aside, Thursday night, obviously don't drink. We've been through this a bunch of times. This is our last weekend of Sober October, and I'm hoping that you're surprising yourself. So do something nice for yourself today, not alcohol related obviously, and I will see you tomorrow.